Gary, and this is Coasting with Culture, which is all about combining theme park visits and riding roller coasters with various cultural experiences around the world. Previously, I kicked off this visit to England with a morning visit to see the models and ride the coasters of Legoland Windsor, then spent that afternoon exploring Windsor Castle before ending the day with a few coasters at Thorpe Park. Next, it's time to venture away from the London area over toward Birmingham, with a few stops for some shameless coaster credits, one of which leads to some small town exploration. After that, the afternoon would include a stop at another major park with an extremely rare model of coaster and a chance to live a childhood fantasy. There'd be quite a bit of driving over the course of this trip, so as one does for these drives, this called for some snacks along the way, which gave me a chance to try their take on crisps, as they call them here, and a grab-it chicken stick, which was actually pretty tasty, especially the spicy variety. It took some time to get used to how narrow some of the roads are in England, but some of the countryside driving was a nice change of pace from the larger motorways, and after a few hours, I made it to the town of Stourport-on-Severn, where I hope to get my first shameless coaster of the day at Treasure Island Amusement Park, a small park featuring a number of former traveling carnival rides owned by showman Henry Danter, who also owns Berry Island Pleasure Park over in Wales. It was a bit early for the rides, so I took some time to explore their arcade. And while they had many similar games to those found in arcades back home in the States, there were also several coin pushers and slot machines. Coin pushers that use actual money are illegal in many states. However, it seemed far more common to find both in various arcades around England. So I tried my luck with about 20 pence worth of coins.
That'll let me break even.
As the rides began testing, I grabbed some tokens and headed over to their Pinfari coaster, Super Dragon, for the first ride of the day. Since I had some time left on the parking meter, I decided to explore this small town that sits on the River Severn, which was established in the 1700s as the result of the creation of the Staffordshire and Worcestershire Canal, leading to the town becoming one of the trading centers for England's Western Midlands. What really caught my attention here was the York Street Lock, which allows boats to be lowered into the Stourport Basin. While I've been familiar with locks since I was a kid because of the Ballard locks in Seattle, it was really neat to see this much older version and how this hand-operated system differs from the mechanical system of the locks back in the Northwest. The only thing that would have made it better would have been to see it in action. After exploring Stourport, I was back on the road to the northeast of Birmingham to get to the Sandwell Valley Country Park, a place with large fields, walking trails, and playgrounds, as well as Sandwell Valley Amusements Fun Fair, where I hoped to ride a wacky worm. Unfortunately, it was closed. I was under the impression that many of the schools in England were out on holiday during this week and that it would be open because of it, but appeared to have been shut down for the season, so perhaps this will have to wait for a summertime visit in the future. But the day was still young, and there was another hopeful credit to be found in the heart of Birmingham, with a stop at Cannon Hill Park, a city park with various walking paths and boating ponds, found next to the Midlands Arts Centre, with a movie theatre and both visual and performing arts. Of course, the main draw for me was Cannon Hill Fun Park, a small amusement park in the middle of this larger city park with a selection of rides, including a shameless credit in Spinning Coaster, an SBF Visa spinner that is quickly becoming one of the most commonly cloned coasters. With the 3 planned shameless credit stops made, I had one last park on my agenda for this day, which was Drayton Manor. If there was one thing I really looked forward to at this park, it was for the sake of riding Shockwave, the Intamin stand-up coaster, which is the only one left in operation after the closure of Cobra at La Ronde 6 years earlier. Since this was an older ride, and Drayton Manor has been removing older, larger rides in favor of more family-friendly attractions, I thought it would be a good idea to come and ride it before it's no longer around. The ride itself isn't the most amazing attraction, but has a rather unique layout from other variations of the stand-up coaster that other manufacturers have made, especially with the Zero G roll, as it's the only ride of its kind to have one. Another older ride I would have been interested in riding was their Intamin drop tower, Apocalypse, especially if the stand-up seats were in operation. Unfortunately, because of the impending closure of the ride at the end of the season, they hadn't been using that side of the tower for a while, so I took a pass on it, which might have been a good call as the afternoon went on. The next coaster I rode was their Vekoma Family Boomerang Accelerator. The queue has a fun garage theme to it and is an enjoyable ride like other versions of the Family Boomerang. This one has a fairly compact layout that interacts with the queue and station building. I'd love to see more parks add this kind of coaster to the lineup if they have more of a family-friendly selection of coasters, or could add a few smaller thrills. After that, I ventured into their new Vikings-themed land, which had seen the addition of some new rides and the re-theming of others, including their Zamperla-powered coaster, Jormungandr. I have to admit, riding this fairly long powered coaster might have led me to start reconsidering how I go about counting coasters. As I've counted powered coasters, if I could tell their gain in speed going downhill was more because of gravity and not because of the drive system on board, and this was one of the more questionable cases. For now, I'm going to continue to do so, but I may change my standard sometime down the road.
I made a very grave mistake with my planning today because I was under the impression that Drayton Manor was open until 7. Turns out, it's only open till 5.
So with no time to lose, I went right over to Thomas Land, the park's Thomas the Tank Engine themed area with several rides and photo opportunities based on the characters of the island of Sodor. This is by far one of the most detailed Thomas themed areas I've seen so far. As a kid growing up, I loved Thomas the Tank Engine and would have absolutely lost my mind walking around here, especially for the photo spot featuring James the Red Engine, since he was my favorite. So while 6-year-old me never had this opportunity, 37-year-old me didn't pass it up. Yep, a childhood dream realized. Among the various rides offered here, the biggest ones include the Railway, where you can ride a car pulled by Thomas, as well as the Troublesome Trucks Runaway Coaster, a custom junior coaster from Gerstlauer that surprisingly had some decent laterals through the zigzag turns after the first big helix. Certainly a ride that would be a good step up from some smaller coasters out there for the younger riders. Since I mistakenly thought the park was open longer, I found myself with some unexpected free time, so after getting checked into my Birmingham hotel, I went further into town to enjoy my first British pub experience at Three Horseshoes. There's a coziness to this place that I enjoyed as I had my first Carling lager and decided to try their take on the British dish of bangers and mash. The gravy was certainly a different flavor than I expected, but it was still good, as were their sausages. I was happy to have a nicer sit-down meal before heading back to the hotel for the night, and the next day would be spent visiting one of my most anticipated parks of the trip for a chance to ride a bucket list coaster. Thank you for watching this Coasting with Culture video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe button below to see future videos here on YouTube like these ones, which you may enjoy as well. Additional content can be found at coastingwithculture.com, and you can also follow Coasting with Culture on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for announcements, previews, and updates. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, take care and safe travels.